In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the radiator in this Toyota Prius. Let's get into it. In the trunk, remove this panel, twist these locks, pull this up, out of the way. Grab this trunk bucket, just slide it out. This cover right here, just pop this up, slide that out. Disconnect the negative terminal, use a 10mm wrench. Slide that off and out of the way. Take this shield off. There's some push pins. I'm going to use a pick, get in the center, and then pop it out. You can always also use a trim tool or even a Phillips head screwdriver. Sometimes they break. Just using a trim tool. And grab this panel, just slide it off. Take these push pins out. Just using a trim tool. There should be a couple of screws right there and there. Take those out. There is rubber bushings that go around there. And that can move forward slightly. Just going to use a pick and just scribe where the latch is. You could use a marker as well. Right there. You can scribe over here as well. Try not to dig into the paint. You don't want it rusting, but just a little scratch. Using a 10mm socket, loosen these bolts up. You could use a wrench. I'll just switch to a ratchet wrench. Take those out. Using a 10mm wrench right here. Take this bolt out. Take that bolt out. You can move this out a little bit. And we're going to take that bolt out. 10mm wrench. All right, that's separated. Using a 12mm socket, just pull this back a little bit. You can use a wrench as well. Take this bolt out. And just be careful with the horn. Pull that out. And just slowly put it down. You don't want to put a hole in the condenser. On the sides, take the two bolts out. Use a 10mm socket. Again, you could use a ratchet wrench if you don't want to pry that back too far. Take the two upper bolts out, 10mm socket. Take this bracket off. I'm going to use a 12mm socket. It's just loose like that. Using a 12mm socket, take this bracket off. That one just broke. Using a 12mm socket, take the 2 bolts out on the inside of this bracket. Slide that off, grab the bracket, slide it up. If it's clipped in where the cable goes, unclip it. This wire harness right here, just use some needle nose pliers. Take these retainers, push those through. Just move this to the side. Take this bolt off right here, use a 10mm socket. Just remove that bracket. This just pushes out of the way. Take this bolt out, use a 10mm socket. Take that out. Another one right here, take that out. Same 10mm socket. That one broke. Take this hose off right here. I'm just using some hose pliers, wiggle that back and forth, slide it off. Just take this hose, pop this out, or just slide it off that clip. Just slide that out of the way. The upper radiator hose, we're just going to push that back. Right there. There's a connector right here. You want to disconnect that. Just push down on the tab, slide it off. Just going to use some pliers. It's just an awkward angle. Just slide that connector off. There's a hose right here. Just take this out of the retainer. It's for the hybrid system. Just slide that to the side. This hose right over here, we're just going to make sure this hose is up. It's out of the retainer. All the hoses are out of the way. Underneath, there's plenty of room to access the fans from the back side without taking these shields down. If you need to, you can remove them, but you don't have to. You can see from underneath, you can access the other fan connector. I'm just going to use a pocket screwdriver just to help push down on the connector. You could use a pick if you need to. Slide that connector off. There's a hose over on the side here. You can see where it should be hooked in right there. Remove that hose from that retainer right there. On the other side, there's a hose attached to a retainer. I'm going to pop that off. I'm just using a trim tool. Just pop that out of the way. We're going to take these 2 lower bolts out, use a 10mm socket. These are a little rusty, so I'm just going to hammer these on. Our bolts were frozen in there, so we had to take other measures, but take those 2 bolts out and you should be good for the next step. Underneath there is a drain bucket, and I'm going to open up the drain valve on the radiator. It's about halfway down the radiator on the left side. Loosen that up. And you can hear coolant draining out. Let that drain. To help it go a little quicker, just take the cap off using hose clamp pliers. Move this hose clamp. Slide that down. I'm just using a pick. I'm just going to loosen this up. Just be careful. Should loosen that up. Just grab the hose. Just wiggle it. Slide it off. Just move this hose out of the way. There's a wire retainer right here. I'm just going to use some needle nose pliers. Pop that out. Just grab the fan assembly. Just slide it out a little bit. Oh, there's a hose right there. Take that hose off. And it slides right out. This hose right here, use some hose clamp pliers. Move that hose clamp. And slide that off. In the pick tool, or right angle pick, just go around, loosen that hose up. Slide that off. Down below, disconnect this connector. Just push down on the tab. And slide it off. This hose clamp is kind of ruined. Use some hose clamp pliers. Take that hose off. That hose clamp moved. You want to put a bucket underneath because you're going to lose some coolant with this. This is in the other coolant system, in the hybrid coolant system. Slide that off. Our system's already drained, but you will lose some coolant there. On the other side, you want to take this hose off. Again, there's a hose clamp. Our hose clamp's missing. Slide that off. Have a drain bucket underneath in case you lose any fluid. There's a little bit. You want to take these brackets off the top of the radiator. Use an 8mm socket. Take these bolts out. That one's just spinning. and those are just spinning. But you want to take those out. Use a Phillips head screwdriver. Take these screws out. Just using some locking pliers to get this one out. It's stripped a little bit. Slide that out. And you can take this mount off and do the same on the other one. Long Phillips head screwdriver, you can get the lower screws right in the front. Or if you have a short one, you can reach down in there and take that screw out. Take those two screws out. Ours are severely rusted, so we had to cut them, but you should be able to get those out. Then grab the condenser and gently rock it up. You take the radiator, you can slide it back a little bit. And slowly pull it out. The mounts should be on the bottom of the radiator still. Might lose some more fluid. And it slides right out. The base of the radiator, we're going to take these mounts off the bushings, and then you want to remove the mounts. Ours are in rough shape, so we're not going to be able to reuse these. We're going to get new ones, but you want to use an 8mm socket. Take those two bolts out, and then this mount will come off. And then you'll do the same on the other side. Take that one off as well. We're going to transfer this sensor over to the new one. I'm using a 19mm wrench. Loosen that up. Take this plug out and put the sensor in. Double check that O-ring. You might want to replace it and put some O-ring lubricant on it. Get that started. Torque that to 62 inch-pounds. Good. Underneath, you can take the old J-nuts and just move them over. If they're in rough shape like ours, then you can just get new ones. Just find some that fit. With these brackets, they are different, the right one and the left one. So if you just take it straight from the radiator and put it on the correct side, then you're all set. This little bracket that goes on the other side has to be more on the inside. So just like that. So keep that in mind. You can see there's a bigger gap here than on here. So this stud needs to be closer to the outside of the radiator. So put those on. Put the screws in. You're going to have your 8mm screws, where we had to get new hardware, so we have Phillips. And just snug those down. Do the same on the other side. You can take these rubber bushings, put those on, or you could slide them in the car, either way. And we'll go install this in the vehicle. Connect the connector. Line that up, lock that down. Take this hose. The hose clamp on ours is rotted away, so we're going to use a worm clamp. Line this up. Get that on. And we'll tighten down the worm clamp. Snug that down, that's good. Slide the radiator hose on. And move the clamp. And that's good. And take the fan assembly, slide it down in. Just make sure the wires are out of the way. Goes up over there for now. Might have to pull the radiator and condenser up a little bit. There we go, it's lined up. Put this bottom hose on. I'm just going to use a hose clamp, a worm clamp, because the hose clamp that was on there is rotted. Line that up, slide it over. I'll just tighten that down. It's tight. That's good. If you loosen this drain up, you want to tighten that. Make sure that's closed. Now I'll put the bolts in for the fan. Get those started. And snug those down. That's good. The connector for your fan, you want to plug that in, or you can try to get to it from above. You know, take the wires and we'll connect the connectors. That one's connected right there. Line that up. Push the retainer in. We'll connect this one. Lock that down. Push that retainer in. That connector's all the way down. Retainer's in, and the other connector is connected. Take the coolant hose. Get this lined up. Slide it on the radiator. Now we'll move the clamp. See, that gets pushed right there. And slide that in place. Releasing the clamp, I'm just going to use some pliers. Just squeeze that like that, and now it's set. This bracket's going to go right here. Just lock that down. Get the bolts on from underneath. Get those started. And I'll snug that down and do the same on the other side. Put this hose in position and slide it on. You can top off your antifreeze here and then fill it up to the full line on the reservoir. Put the cap on. Take these brackets, line these up, get the bolt started, or the screw. Now tighten that down. Put the two bolts here. We're putting screws because our bolts were broken, but you should have the two 8mm bolts. Tighten those down, snug those up. And do the same on the other side. Put these rubber bushings on, push those down. Put the bolts in for the fan, get those started. Do that on both sides. Snug those down. Take the latch. This wiring harness is going to go right here. Attach to the fan. Lock those down. Take the bracket, and it's going to clip into here. The cable's going to clip into there. So just reach that around and slide it in place. Roughly where it goes. Reach down below, grab the horn that you set aside, get that lined up. Snug that down and put the bolts in for the bracket. Snug those down. Tighten those down and do the same on the other side. Bolts in for the latch. Snug that down. There we go. Those are all in there. Try to get this lined up as close to your scratch marks or marks as possible. Snug those down. That's good. At this point, you can lower the hood and just make sure that it's close to where the latch is, where the catch is, and it is. You're good. So adjust accordingly. Take this bracket, take the bolts, get those started. And there should be one more bolt there. Ours is broken. Tighten those down. Those are tight. Put this bracket in place. And we'll tighten those down. Snug those down. Connect the negative battery terminal. Use the wrench. snug that down, give it a wiggle, make sure it's tight. Take this cover, slide it in place. And put this basket in. And this cover is going to go on top. Lock it down. You want to top off the coolant system completely and the reservoir. Run the vehicle for about 10 or 15 minutes, monitoring the coolant system, making sure the vehicle is not overheating. Let the vehicle cool down and then adjust accordingly. Adding the coolant to the hybrid system, you want to open this bleeder valve right here. That's going to be for the coolant. Then you're going to top off the coolant here until you start seeing bubbles come out of the bleeder. Close that off. You're going to turn the key on and you should hear a pump running, and that's going to circulate the coolant system. Top off and adjust accordingly, and then close the lid and you should be good to go. And put this cover on, line it up. Take the push pins, get those all started, and lock them down. And the push pins on the front bumper, push those in, lock them down.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.